I'm Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, outs, and retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X books that come out each week. And this is different. This looks different. Where did this come from?
Earth 811.
Oh.
Actually, I made it for this weekend.
Yeah, so this weekend is Rose City Comic-Con, Portland's awesome comic convention.
Yay.
We're going to be tabling there. We're going to be on panels there. You should come see us. But anyway, we have comics to talk about, just 2 this week. Let's go ahead and dive in.
First up, we have the penultimate issue of Age of Apocalypse. That's number 4, written by Fabian Nicieza, drawn by Ivan Coelho, and colored by David Curiel. Man, I liked this series at the beginning, and it's just been sliding downhill.
It's an interesting concept. I mean, it's the idea, like, here's Age of Apocalypse. What if these details were changed? What would the world be like then? So that's got some cool stuff going on.
Right, it's a cool premise. I thought Doug Ramsey was going to be the protagonist, but he's just kind of there, which is frustrating. That's the thing, I mentioned this last time, but it just feels like there's too much going on in this book. There are a ton of characters. There's a ton of sort of thrown straight in, not exactly world building. I feel like it's a lot more reliant on familiarity with the original miniseries or the original series that it's based on than most of the Secret Wars books, which for me is a major downside because part of the point of these is accessibility, and this isn't. This is not accessible.
Yeah, I mean, that said, if you like the original AOA, it's kind of a cool different look at it. There are some details that have been changed that I think are really interesting. Specifically, some stuff that happens between Emma Frost and Magneto. That's pretty rad. Also, so I've mentioned every time we've talked about the new Age of Apocalypse that there's a character called Burner in it who I'm convinced is Adam X the Extreme.
He's Adam X the Extreme.
And they just keep playing it as like
he's
this
not,
big...
though. He's Adam X. He is not Extreme.
He's not, no. He's on fire, though. But they keep playing it up as this big mystery of who is he really. And I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but I find it hilariously awesome.
There's a lot in here that reads like it's almost self-parody, but not quite that self-aware, and that's frustrating. Like, this is a book that I feel like has the potential to be a lot more than it is, and it's mired in, the less exciting parts of that era. God, look at the cover.
Yeah.
I'll put this up on the screen for a minute. And also post a shout out to my friend Amy's Escher Girls, which this is a prime example. It's like, really, I feel like this is a sensibility that we effectively left behind like 7 years ago.
That said, I mean, if it's trying to capture a 90s vibe, well, that counts.
But when the series do this right, and I think the other book we're reviewing this week is a great example, they distill out what was good and what, is worth bringing back, worth revisiting, definitive in positive and interesting and intriguing ways. This just feels like a mess. I mean, it feels like all of the particulate matter and none of the actual solution.
So we have one more issue after this. I'll be curious to see how it wraps up. It could be that it, ends up working very well as a full story. It could be that it stays scattered like that. We'll see. I'm interested to find out.
This is a book that I want to be good. It's a book that I think has the potential to be good. Just has to live up to it.
Second, we have House of M, number 3, written by Dennis Hopeless and Cullen Bunn, with art by Ario Anindito and colors by Matt Wilson. And guys, I really like this book. I really like this title, and I really like this specific issue. Another good number 3. We've seen a lot of good number 3s in Secret Wars so far.
Yeah, I mentioned with Age of Apocalypse that it feels like the original event kind of just scooped up wholesale. This is what I was talking about when I was talking about distilling down the core and the really good core of again, a large, sprawly event.
Absolutely. The original House of M was kind of a mess just by virtue of being so gigantic. But this one right here, it's a tight, focused story. There's still a lot going on. There's a lot of infighting and backstabbing and rebellion and stuff like that. But it focuses on what's interesting. The small band of hopeless rebels, the various members of the royal family and all of their agendas and who they're loyal to and who they're not. And it's great. It's also recognizable but still very distinct takes on characters we've come to know and love. Magneto is written beautifully in this, which is no surprise. Cullen Bunn is co-writing, and he just got done doing a phenomenal run on Magneto. But the character I think benefits most from this is actually Polaris.
Yeah.
She's a character that, she's very seldom been written interestingly. I mean, she has sometimes, don't get me wrong, but not as often as some characters.
Well, and she tends to be written very, very inconsistently. She's a character who gets turned up to 11 in ways that don't always make a lot of sense. And she's a character who spent a large amount of her public tenure possessed, which really doesn't help.
There is that. But in this, it kind of made me think of actually Havoc from the original Age of Apocalypse. Sort of the definitive version of a character where they really seem to click with the world, not necessarily being a positive thing. Havoc was a terrible human being in AOA, well, mutant, but he was at his most interesting, I think. And with this, Polaris as this sort of arrogant, competent, but very full of herself and convinced of her own superiority, like, second in command of the House of M, I buy it. She's really interesting. She's not a person I would want to hang out with necessarily, because I'm, human scum and all that. But, yeah, just interesting, neat takes on characters we've seen before. That's what I want out of Secret Wars. That's something this book excels at. I'm really interested to see what happens, because the plot's already gone in some really unexpected directions, especially in this issue. But mainly, I just want to spend more time in this version of this world with these versions of these characters. All right, 2 for 2. What's our favorite?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious our pick of this week is House of M number 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our panel
is actually also from House of M number 3. I went back and forth. There's some cool panels on this, but I think the one we settled on, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, but look at this. It's exactly what the original House of M was all about, and in a way what this new one seems to be about as well, which is Pietro's words coming from off screen into a panel full of a conflicted-looking Wanda with her hair and face and just being suffusing the entire reality. And that's a beautiful visual symbol for everything this is about, all in a panel that most people, I think, would just sort of look past. I love that subtlety. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here, please check out our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher. What have we got for them this week?
So this weekend we'll be recording at Rose City Comic Con, but the episode that'll be going up on our various pod stuff is all about X Factor. Cameron Hodge turns out to be the big jerk we all knew he was. Cyclops and Jean Grey finally violently, soap opera-ly confront each other. It's good stuff. It's dark stuff, but good stuff. Check it out.
So basically X Factor as usual then.
Yeah, pretty much.
That podcast, these video reviews, and everything at rachelandmiles.com are brought to you by our rad Patreon subscribers. We are an entirely listener-supported and ad-free project that is made possible by those fine folks, and if you want to join them, you can do that at the link either above or below this video, depending on where you're watching it.
Yes, indeed. In the meantime, hopefully we'll see you at Rose City Comic Con, provided we are not slain or apprehended.